Good evening, Patriots, and welcome back to Aim Point. I'm Aristotle Orsini, as always, and tonight's show is going to knock your fucking socks off. We're going to be talking about what is undoubtedly the biggest TU news of the week, the revelation that Kevin Hern may be our next president. Before we get into that, though, we need to talk about some national news. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court rejected an appeal from Infowars and its creator, Alex Jones, to have his case heard and overturn the $1.4 billion verdict levied against him for defamation in 2022.
You may recall Sandy Hook families previously won a lawsuit against Jones after he spread lies about the 2012 elementary school shooting.
The conspiracy theorist owes families of that school shooting victims roughly $1.5 billion after losing defamation lawsuits, all stemming from his false claim that the massacre was staged by the government to build support for gun control.
Sounds like she struggled a little bit with that one. Families of that school shooting, victims roughly. Can you imagine if I started telling a story like that? President Donald Trump is really good. The left would be all over me for having a stroke on air. The Supreme Court rejecting this case, unfortunately, opens the doors back up for satirical news site The Onion to buy Infowars at auction. The sale was blocked by a judge who had ruled the auction had been held improperly, but I'd argue that the more improper thing would be letting this guy take the place of this guy.
I'm a CNN reporter. Whoa. James Bond. Destroy the child. Corrupt them all. Enemies. And we're going to get your asses. And we know what you're up to. And we're coming for you. There's no video of President Trump sucking a ding-dong. And so what if there was? That's a lot better than World War III, Owen.
He's right, you know. Sucking a ding-dong is better than World War III. Well, unless you ask Pete Hegseth. I'm worried about the precedent this ruling sets, though, because if defamation is enough for you to if defamation is enough to force you to pay $1.5 billion, $1.5 billion with a B, and send you into bankruptcy, then what hope do any of us conservative commentators have? The power of the woke courts and juries will force us to shutter our doors for refusing to conform to their PC agenda. As the old saying goes, first they came for the conspiracy theorists, and I did not speak out because I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Then they came for the president, and I did not speak out because I am not the president. Then they came for the conservative news hosts, and I did not speak out because I am not a conservative news host. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out. Now that we've covered that, I'd like to introduce our newest segment on the show, What on Earth is Going On in the University of Tulsa's Administration? Now, for the last few weeks, I've been hard at work trying to dig up as much truth about how our university is being run, and it hasn't been easy. I've been essentially cold calling faculty members, and I've faced NDAs, lack of response, and dodging of questions. But what I have been able to learn is quite interesting. Here to tell us more about what I've learned, take it away, me from the past.
Students, faculty, friends, and family of TU, please watch this whole video so you can understand the situation the university is currently in and why it matters. In May of 2025, Brad Carson, the president of the University of Tulsa, announced that he would be resigning. Shortly afterwards, it became clear that he was not, in fact, resigning, but was being asked to leave. He was fired by the Board of Trustees for financial issues. The full state of the decision is unclear to students still, but what we can understand from rumors is that the university is $70 million in debt. Now, the Brad Carson administration, beyond the $70 million of debt, left a lot of waves in its wake. But the most important one to me is the question of who will be our next president. Currently, we have interim president Rick Dixon, but he's only temporary. The university is actively searching for a new president, and I think it's incredibly crucial that anyone who cares about this university understands who they're looking at. Recently, a rumor has gone around between both faculty and students that Mike Case, a member of the Board of Trustees, and yes, that's Case as in the Case Athletic Complex, the Case Tennis Center, and the Pat Case Dining Center, which I'm standing in front of, has offered the board a $100 million dowry to the university if Kevin Hern is chosen to be our next president. Now, this, of course, would erase that $70 million in debt that we are currently in and put us $30 million in the black, but not without dire cost. Since being appointed to the House of Representatives in November of 2018 by then-Governor Mary Fallin, Kevin Hern has risen to be a prominent member of the National Republican Party. He was one of 126 Republican House members who signed an amicus brief to the Supreme Court contesting the results of the 2020 election. He was also one of 147 Republican House members to vote in favor of overturning that election. In 2021, he was among 16 House members to vote against the Bipartisan Allies Act that would increase special visas for Afghan allies of the U.S. during its invasion of Afghanistan. And in 2023, when Kevin McCarthy was vacated from his spot as Speaker of the House, Kevin Hern was one of the main contenders for that position. In April of this year, he received a tour of a maximum security prison in El Salvador being used by the Trump administration to hold immigrants from the U.S. who had been forcibly removed, including immigrants who were illegally removed. He took no stance against this issue. And in 2022, he had over $1 million in PPP loans forgiven, despite rallying hard against the Biden administration's attempt to forgive student loans. In May of this year, Hern voted in favor of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which, according to the Center for American Progress, will increase out-of-pocket costs for Medicare recipients, increase monthly student loan payments, take away food assistance from veterans, children aiding out of foster care, and the homeless, give $30 billion to ICE, tripling its 2024 budget, and gives a $100 million budget to Russell Vought, a co-author of Project 2025 and the current director of the White House Office of Management and Budget. These are only a few of the things this bill does that hurts low and middle class families, but Kevin Hern voted in favor of it because his priorities lie not with his constituents in Oklahoma, but with his biggest donors. His top donors include the oil and gas lobby and AIPAC, the lobby for Israel, who in the 2023 to 2024 election cycle donated a combined $230 million to his campaign. Mike Case himself has also donated to Kevin Hern's campaigns. Since 2020, he's donated around $50,000. Kevin Hern has regularly associated himself with Donald Trump and considers himself ideologically aligned with him. I could go on, but I believe at this point I've painted an accurate picture of who Kevin Hern is. Now I want to talk about why he's bad for you, Tulsa. I spoke to a professor who prefers to remain anonymous, and what they told me gave me great cause for concern. They said that when speaking to faculty, it's been made clear that, quote, people would step down from leadership positions and that they themselves would strongly consider stepping down as well. They do not want to be a part of a university, particularly in a leadership role, that would hire Kevin Hern to be the new president, one of the foremost deniers of the 2020 election. My source also said that they believe that if Kevin Hern is selected as our next president, that the university will shift even further into STEM and, quote, downplay the idea that liberal arts is something we give a shit about here. This is incredibly concerning because even if you are a STEM student, and that sounds great, liberal arts are an important fundamental of college. It is what colleges were built off of in the first place. I also spoke to Lisa Cromer, the president of the Faculty Senate, who, as president, serves automatically on the Board of Trustees. She is on the Presidential Search Committee, consisting of several members of the Board of Trustees, and while she was unable to confirm or deny whether there was a $100 million deal to make Kevin Hern our next president, she was able to tell me that the board has hired Whit Kiefer, a search agency, to help them find our next president. She said that while the search committee does not completely agree on the most important qualities for our next president, she has been a firm supporter of hiring someone who is currently the president of another university, and particularly a president who has a background in academia, rather than hiring another politician like Brad Carson to be our president.
There's no question when we surveyed faculty, 100% of faculty want to see a PhD. They're open to other degrees as well, but PhD is strongly preferred.
The possibility of Kevin Hern being our next president has brought about the return of the concerned faculty of TU, who are an anonymous group that formed during the days of true commitment in 2020 when the university started cutting non-STEM programs in favor of putting focus on STEM departments. A group of faculty members formed the group to make their voices heard in a time of great importance and distress. The all but confirmed rumors of the $100 million deal have prompted this group to come out of retirement to make themselves heard once again, sending emails to faculty who have aligned themselves with their cause. It is clear that Kevin Hern is not wanted by faculty to be our next president, but they aren't the ones that choose. Our president is chosen by the Board of Trustees, who meet here in Collins Hall once every quarter. They are made up of primarily wealthy investors and not by members of academia. The faculty is making their voice heard, and it's time that students do too. That's why I've created this group, Hurricane Against Hern. If you scan this QR code, it'll take you to the GroupMe where we are organizing, discussing, and figuring out what we should do to let the board know that we do not want Kevin Hern to be our next president. Please share this video with your friends, your family, with faculty members, and with other students so that we can unite together and tell the board, no, we do not want Kevin Hern. I care a lot about this university, seeing as I've spent a year and a half here, and I will spend another 2.5 years here, and for the rest of my life, I will tell people I went to the University of Tulsa. We have a unique opportunity now to shape this campus for the better, and if we don't act, we may never get this chance again. Thank you.
Now, a lot of what was said in that video might be called hearsay, but I'd like to say that the most important takeaway that I want you to get from that video is not whether or not you should like Kevin Hern, okay? I simply presented all of the information I have and that I am able to share at this time in order for students to have as much knowledge about what our current presidential situation is. I'd also like to clarify, I've just spoken to Brad Carson on the phone, and he wants me to let you all know that he was not fired, but was he in fact resigned on the spot after being presented with budget cuts for many programs, including the Honors College. Now, here to tell us more about Kevin Hern, please welcome back Hendrik Dubois.
Earlier this March, Representative Kevin Hern received a 16.55 out of 100, or an F, for his financial integrity by nonpartisan internet user known as Stalking the Capitol, who focuses on dirty campaign finance on both sides of the aisle. Kevin Hern received this grade for 3 main reasons. Number 1, the large amount of PAC and large donor money he receives. Number 2, the scale at which he trades stocks. And number 3, the blatant conflicts of interests. Firstly, Kevin Hern receives over 68% of his money from PACs and over 29% from large donors. The proportion of money he receives from small donors, also known as people who donate $200 or less, is only 1.64%. Some of his largest contributors are the oil and gas lobby and AIPAC. He raised over $1.9 million between 2023 and 2024. Second, Kevin Hern holds a large amount of his net worth in stocks and is constantly making trades. Since joining Congress in 2018, Hern has made 843 individual stock trades with a total trading volume of $122 million. Enriching yourself off of insider information is one way to double your net worth. Between 2018 and 2024, as Kevin Hern has gone from $60 million to an estimated $110 million in that span. Third, Kevin Hern has violated many ethical and maybe even legal boundaries by holding stocks in companies he accepts maximum campaign donations from. Hern receives the maximum campaign donations from Home Depot and the Williams Company, while also owning hundreds of thousands of dollars in each of their stocks, making it in his own financial interest as well as theirs to pass legislation that benefits them. Look, folks, I'll be frank. I don't know if Kevin's going to be able to get up to an A all on his own. Heck, he may not even care about his grade. But you do. You don't want a representative or a president of a university only working for himself. To put Kevin in charge of the University of Tulsa would be a massive mistake. He's not only working for himself, but he's working for big corporations and oligarchs who want what's best for themselves, not for students. If you care about the university like I do and like so many others do, you need to make your voice heard. You need to make noise when you disagree with this choice, because the administration needs to know the consequences, what the consequences are if Kevin Hern is made the president of this university.
Incredibly well said, Hendrik. And now I know a lot of you might be jumping to the comments section to say, Hendrik's gone woke, or Aristotle's gone woke. But that's not the case, and I have factual evidence here to prove it to you. And it says Hendrik equals woke ? Unbelievable. So it's not true. And I don't actually have a paper that says my name on it, but there, see? I'm not woke either. Okay, so unfortunately, due to the massive strain that this investigation has put on our resources, that's all we have time for today. But make sure you tune in next week when we'll cover the differences and similarities between apples and oranges. Good night, America.